Hello, hello. It's probably Sharon. Welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad you're here. Today we're going to go over button and string closures on envelopes and how cute this edition is for your junk journal. I'll show you how to use the large eyelets as well as brads. So stay tuned and we will go through this together and you can make some of these adorable envelopes to put in your journal. Let's get started. Welcome back, guys. I'm so glad you're here. First, I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about these button and string closure envelopes. Basically, they're just bigger coin envelopes that have a button and a string that you can use to close them up. I'm sure you've all seen them. I just wanted to look at the different weights of paper that I've used on some that I've already done and kind of give my opinion on them. So this first one, if you saw my last video on the napkin, using the napkins to cover the paper and stuff, that's basically what this was. So it's not super thick, but it works great for this. With that glue and stuff and the napkin over the top, it made it a bit stronger. So that weight of paper will work fine if that's something that you want to use. This is the same type of thing, covered with napkin. This also has a 1-inch circle, but I used brads to fasten those on. And this is one more napkin covered paper. This was actually shipping paper or packaging paper that was in an Amazon delivery I got. I just ironed it out and did the same thing with the napkin. These circles are 1 1/4 inch, and I am leaning towards liking these better. I like the circles that are a little bit bigger, and I also like the bigger eyelets. And this is kind of how it all started with me. I was thinking about these button and string closures and wanting to make some envelopes, and I was thinking back to the first time I ever saw a button and string closure envelope, and it was when I started my very first real 9-to-5 job when I was 17, and they had inner office mail. And so I had to make a replica kind of an inner office mail envelope. And then it just kind of went from there. I just had fun making all sorts of different ones. This one has double-sided paper, so you can see the other pattern on the inside when you open it up. This was 1-inch circle with silver eyelets. This is really heavy cardstock. This little envelope is really sturdy, really strong. And I just put some lace over the buttons. It's not glued to it or anything. I just took the button and cut around it on the lace, and I thought that turned out really cute. And then also this has brads fastening that onto. This is also cardstock, not quite as heavy as the last one. This is also cardstock, double-sided paper. Another napkin covered one. Now this one, I used the small eyelets, and I quickly learned, or discovered for myself anyway, that I'm not a fan of the small ones to do this. And the reason is you have to put so many layers. So there's the big button, then you have 2 smaller circles, or they act as kind of like washers, just to give them, there's a little space so that you have room for that string, so you'll be able to slip the string under the button. If you didn't, that button would be flush against the envelope and it would be hard to, you could do it, get the string in there, but it would be more difficult. So you have to put a couple little circles between the big one and the actual envelope just to give it a little space. But my worry, or my problem with this, is these also, eyelets had washers too, so it looks a little bigger than it really is. But my problem with this was there was such a small lip holding it in there. With all those different layers, of paper, it ended up being just as long as the shaft or whatever, stem, I don't know what you call it, on the eyelet. So when I crimped it down, there's just not much holding on there, and I'm really worried that it's just going to pull right off. So this one actually didn't have the washer. So you can see how small that is, that tiny little lip that's holding it in there. I overthink. I can't be the only one, but my worry is over time, it's eventually just going to pull right out because there's just such a small, small little lip holding that in there. So I'm kind of leaning towards using the bigger eyelets and the brads. This is really thin scrapbook paper. It's an envelope, so it'll be fine. It'll work. It'll hold up just fine. It seems like about any weight of paper works well for this project. So yeah, I just kind of want to give my opinion on that. So first off, this first one we're going to do, this envelope will end up being 6 inches tall by 5 inches wide. So it should fit in, the average size of journal. It should fit on the pages or clip in just fine. So this was actually a 12 by 12 sheet that I cut down to 8.5 by 11. And if you notice, it's slightly under 11. I trimmed a little too much off, but I'm going to act as if it's 8.5 by 11. So if you have directional paper, just make sure that your top is up. With this one, I'm fine. It can go any direction. So we'll start scoring. Our first score, this scoreboard is really old. I was trying to find the link for it and it's unavailable, but I will try to find a link to a comparable one if anybody's interested in this. Okay, our first score is going to be at 3 1/4. So I'm just going to go to 3 1/4 and just make a line. And then I'm going to go to 8 1/4 and make another line. Oops. Maybe if I can stay in the groove. Like that. I'm going to turn it counterclockwise. And then my first score, so this is the top over here. So my first score on this side is going to be 2 inches, and this is going to be the flap. So our flap is going to be 2 inches. And I'm going to go all the way down to 8 and score it again. That's going to be really small. I might go up just one more notch. So 7 7/8. This is going to be the flap that goes on the bottom. I figure between 1/2 inch and 3/4 of an inch is usually good, but that just looked really small. So I just went over a little bit. Okay. So we have all of our scores on here. Now we can go ahead and fold it. So okay, so here's our sides. And then I'm going to fold over the top. And then the bottom. All right. I'm going to open it back up. Now we're going to start trimming. So I'm going to go to the bottom. So this little lip here is our bottom. And you can see just right above that score line, I'm going to just cut over to the crease. And then this is our bottom flap here. I'm going to make a slight angle. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I just want to cut right above that fold. The only reason I'm doing this, cutting right above the fold, is so that when we fold it up, there's no chance of it being a little bit too long and, giving us problems when we're trying to, glue the flap over. Okay, so now we're going to go to the top. And so imagine this is the flap. So it's a 2-inch flap. So I don't want my inside to be right up against the top. I want to have a little V, so it's easier to put things in and out. So I'm going to cut a slight angle. Just make sure you don't go past 2 inches, because if you go past 2 inches, you're going to be able to see the opening when the flap is closed, and we don't want that. So I'm going to just go down, what is that, about 1/2 inch? And cut over to where all the folds meet. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay. So I'm just going to cut just to this side of that fold. This is our flap. And then on this one, I'm going on this side of the fold slightly, just down to there. All right, and we will shape that flap in a second. So let's just take a look, see what we have. So it's looking good. So our V is good. We could have went, even on a sharper angle and made that V a little deeper. But that's personal preference. Okay, now the flap, I've been doing like a circle, like I've been making them rounded corners. On this one, I think I'm going to do kind of a tag shape on the, how the top of the tags look. So where did my scissors go? Okay. So I'm just going to I'm just eyeballing this first one. I'm just cutting it on a diagonal down to that spot where the folds meet. And then I'm going to take that piece that I just cut off and flip it around and place it on the other side. And then I'm going to use that as like a template. And this will make it so our, actually I might need to do it the other way. All those flaps are going to get in my way. So yeah, I'm just using it as like a template so both sides of the flap are, equal. They look like they match. So just like that. Excuse me. Okay. Now we need to find the center. So we know that our envelope is 5 inches wide. So the center of that would be 2.5. Now, one thing, if you do not have a crocodile, I don't have a crocodile. It's on my list of things I want to get, but I do not have one yet. So I'm using just a regular hole punch, and they don't reach as far as a crocodile. So this is how I kind of came up with the measurements and how, where to score it and everything, is so that when I put the eyelet in or the brad in, it's not going to be right on the edge. Because if you can imagine, if you put a brad through there and it's right on the edge, and then you open up those little feet, and when you try to glue it down, it's going to keep you from gluing it down flush with the flap underneath. Because, the little feet, or even on an eyelet, the back part of it is going to be lifted a little bit. So if you have it right on the edge, that's just not going to work. I mean, it will work. It just won't look very good, and it won't be very functional. What I did is I figured out how far over my hole punch will punch, and then I thought, well, the edge of my flap can't be more than 3/4 of an inch from the center of the envelope, or my buttons will end up being skiwampus. So I just took, and this is, I think, I think everybody has one of these. But this is what I did. So I just marked the pink or the purple here on the edge so I know what side I'm measuring from. So I just took my punch and I went all the way as far as it will go, and then I just backed it off just a hair, and then I punched. And then I just measured it, So you can see that the center of that is about 3/4 of an inch. So I can't go past 3/4 of an inch, or else I won't be able to line up my hole. And this makes a smaller hole. This one goes quite a bit further. It will go up to 1.5 inches. So I'm not worried about this one. And that's actually the one I use for brads. So let's find the center. See, this is why I spend all this time measuring and figuring out where to make score lines so everything would match up. So that's just kind of giving you an idea of why I did all this measuring and scoring and all this. Okay. So the middle of our envelope is 2.5. So from this bottom of this flap, I don't want to go any further than 3/4 of an inch up, or I'm not going to be able to punch my hole. So I'm just going to, but then again, I don't want it all the way on the edge either. So I'm just going to make a dot. I'm just eyeballing it. It's kind of down here. And then I'm going to make the one that's going to be down lower on the envelope. I've made my 2 dots. And like I said, I think I'm going to use brads on this envelope. So now I can go ahead and punch my holes, and I'm using the smaller punch, the one that makes the smaller hole. I'm just going to line that up. Make my first hole and then make my other hole down here. Okay. And I think I will go with the 1 1/4 inch circles on these, the buttons. I do like the bigger ones. So what I want to do is punch a bunch of circles. So this is the punch I'm going to use. It's 1 1/4 inches. This one's pretty heavy duty. And normally I like to use cereal box for the buttons. So what I usually do is I cut some strips of cereal box. Okay, here they are. I just cut some strips that are, a little bit bigger than 1 1/4 inch. And the easiest way that I found to do this is punching the little hole first, as long as you can kind of get in the center. And then I take my punch and try to make sure that's in the middle as best as you can. I mean, sometimes even though it looks like it's perfect, after you punch it, you'll be like, yeah, that's not exactly in the center. Just do your best and try to punch a couple circles out. Okay, and actually we're going to need 2 more, and that's because we need to put one on the back just for reinforcement. So I'm going to punch out a couple more too. I mentioned before that I put little washers in between the envelope and the button on top to give us some space for the string to go. So for that one, I actually use a 1/2 inch circle. Looks like this. So I think it's made by the same company. So I need to put 4 of those because I need 2 for the top and then 2 for this one. And I just do it the same way. I punch the little hole and then try to line it up with the 1/2 inch circle. It's easier just to do a whole bunch of these. That's what I did earlier. I just punched out a whole bunch, some with the bigger circle and some with the smaller hole punch. So they would be all ready, but I figured I should probably do some of this on camera so you can see the process. Okay, I have a couple more already punched. Now we can think about how we want, do we want to decorate this little button at all? You could put like book page of the examples that I showed a little while ago. You probably noticed that some of them had like book page, some of them had different, not fabric, different paper, different patterns. And this one, I don't know, I might just leave them brown because it kind of goes with the envelope. Actually, I think I'm going to use a little bit of book page on the buttons. So I just have this spare piece. I'm going to go ahead and just punch out 2. And then I'm going to put that on top of the button with glue stick. If I use liquid glue or Elmer's glue or PVA glue, it's going to warp the paper a little bit. So for this, I'm going to, just use the glue stick. So just make sure that's covered really well all the way to the edges, because we don't want the edges lifting up, especially on a button closure. We don't want the string to be able to get in between there at all. So I'll just take that and put it right on the top. Make sure you have the edges all matched up. And then just press it down. Get it on my fingers. Yeah, just press it down like this. And it might take, a couple minutes to dry. So just kind of set that aside. Here's our other one. Okay, we can go ahead and punch the little hole. So since we already have one in here, I'm just going to line that up with the hole that's already there. It's a little tricky. But just try to punch in that same hole. And then, of course, I will ink around the edges of these buttons. I think I'm just using scorched timber. Like that. All right. So now I'm going to take the buttons. Oh, can't pick anything up. The extra buttons that we punched out to put on the back. I think I'm missing one. Oh, there it is. So I'm just going to glue those on the back and then, line it up with the hole that's already there. See, now we have a little bit of a problem on this one because it's poking over the edge. See that? So, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put a smaller circle. I'm going to use the 1-inch circles. Nope, I have some, but they don't have holes in them. So I'll try to center this. Yeah, this is hard. It's easier to do it the other way, but yeah, that's not centered. But these are going to be on the inside, so it won't be as noticeable. So out of the two, I think this one is better. So I'm going to put that one on the top. And again, I'm using the glue stick. Just line it up with that hole, like so. Now this is just giving it a little extra strength, so hopefully the little buttons and brads won't poke or pull through the paper when you're tying your string. All right, so now we've got that done. So I'm using some brads. These are metal. I got these at Walmart. So they kind of have a big head on them and they have long legs, feet, whatever. So I've got some of those. And like I said, I'm doing two washers in between the button and the envelope. So first we'll put on the actual button and then the two little washers. And then we can go ahead and poke that through. Another thing I like to check is to see if that is going to overlap at all. So I can see that the little feet are going to hit about right here when it's glued together. So in that case, part of this is going to be poking out into the envelope, and I don't want people to catch things on, if they're putting in a tag or something, it's going to catch on that little button. So just to be safe, I'm going to put a little bit of masking tape just on that little edge to keep anything from accidentally catching on it. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and do the top, the same thing. Two little washers and our button. Go ahead and poke that through. Now let's go ahead and glue this closed. Today I'm using art glitter glue. I don't feel like the glue stick is good for gluing the seams. I mean, it might be fine, but I'm going to use the art glitter glue because it dries a little bit faster. I always use Elmer's, so sorry, Mr. Elmer. Elmer cow. Why is there a cow on here? Because glue is made from cows? Anyway, I don't know. But Elmer, I'll be back. Don't you worry. It's my favorite glue for working on stuff like this. But this dries faster, so art glitter glue is great. So before you start gluing, it's a good idea to get some parchment paper or wax paper to put down so that if any glue seeps out on this seam, it'll go onto this instead of gluing the envelope shut to itself, right? So I'm just going to put a little bit along the edge of this inner flap. And the same thing, I'm going to put a little bit on the edge of the outer flap. I'm going to put a little bit extra around this button. All right, I'm going to just go ahead and fold that over. Now you see how we have a little bit past the button, so we have plenty of room to be able to glue the envelope down flush. There's not going to be any bits, sticking up because of the feet of the brad holding it up. If you have any seepage from your glue, just go ahead and wipe that off. And then we're going to go ahead and fold this flap closed. I'll just go ahead and fold that. And sometimes I like to get some clamps just to keep it down for a few minutes while it dries. Okay, so we'll just let this dry. Even though this paper is beautiful on its own. And, you got to think about, these are envelopes. Most likely they'll probably be going inside of journals. So you might not want to decorate them or embellish them too much because, they're envelopes and they're going to be able to hold quite a bit of stuff. And that's going to add bulk to your book. So you might not want to decorate it at all. And as you can see, the ones that I showed you, there's only a couple that I even decorated. So if you're going to put something on it, just make, probably a good idea that it's something thin like this. I was thinking about putting this on. I have a bee journal that I'm giving away. Actually, today is the drawing. I still have to look up whose name. The number I drew was number 11. So I have to go down through the comments on that particular video and figure out who was the 11th person to comment that they wanted to enter to win it. So anyway, I'll get to that. I'll post who won. I thought that I would add this into that journal that I'm going to be shipping off tomorrow. Hopefully shipping off if the winner gets back to me quickly. All right, so that glue, like I said, the art glitter glue dries quite quickly. So it looks like we're good. All right, this looks pretty good, right? It goes with the colors and stuff. So I'm just going to attach that. So I hope you guys are all having a great day. Can't believe it's Wednesday already. Actually, I can't believe that the kids are back in school and that summer is pretty much over. To me, it seems like it should still be June. Like this summer just flew by. It's not fair. Honestly, to me, it feels like we just had Christmas. And now it's like we're almost ready to start getting ready for Christmas again. It's like, what happened? What happened? All right, I'm just going to place that down, try to center it. So we basically just need to tie a string around the button and this one is pretty much done. Really cute though. I really like it. It's really fall-ish. It has a nice fall vibe to it. And it has a cute little bee. It'll go perfect with that little journal. Okay, so with the string, I have different thicknesses of string. I believe, let's see. Let me grab some. Okay, I just grabbed some black. I like the baker's twine for this, for the strings. I have one that I think it's just 2 or 3 ply. It's really thin, but it's perfect. Because it's not too thick. It's not too thin. It just works out perfectly. And this particular black string is a little bit thicker than it is, but it's still quite thin. So I think it'll be just fine. So, I mean, I don't think there's a real rule as to which button that the string should be tied on. I usually go for the top one. I don't know why. I just do. So, but again, I don't think there's a rule as to which one you're supposed to tie it onto. I'm just sliding that underneath, making a little knot. So sometimes I just do once, just like that. It's up to you whether you want to put a second one. And then you can leave that long string there, or you can cut it off a little bit shorter. Oh, that's another thing. I did want to put a little piece of washi tape or something over that, just to kind of hide it a little bit. Okay, I just found a little piece and stuck that on there. You can still see part of the circle underneath it, but I'm not too worried about that. I'm going to remove that because it seems like it's pretty dry. So, oh my gosh, you guys, doesn't that look adorable? Oh my gosh, I love it. It's so cute. See, that will fit perfectly in my little bee journal. So you can also go around and ink the edges if you want. I'm just so happy with that. It's adorable. So let's see what the dimensions ended up being. It should be 5 by 6. So it's 5 by almost 6. So yeah, that will fit perfectly in most journals. What do you think, guys? I love it. I decided I am going to ink around the edges a little bit. I'll probably speed this up crazy fast though, because I think you all know how to ink around the edges. All right, there we go. Beautiful. The next one we're going to work on is an envelope that will end up being 8.5 inches by 5.5 inches. So it's going to be about the same size as your actual pages. We're going to start off with a 12 by 12 piece of paper. I've gone with some more fall-ish paper. So I did get this at Hobby Lobby, if anybody's interested. Okay, so our first score, and I'll put a layout of these so you can get a screenshot of it after I finish this one. I'll put up the dimensions and folds and everything for both this one and the one we just did. Okay, so the first score is going to be at 3.5 inches. The second one will be at 9 inches. Then we're going to turn it counterclockwise. And then, so this will be our top flap. We're going to score it at 2.5 inches. And then the bottom we're going to do at 11 inches. So this bottom flap will be 1 inch. So if you do not want it to be 8.5 inches tall, you want it to be a little bit shorter, you could always score the flap at like 2 3/4 and the bottom at like 10 3/4 to make your envelope shorter. So like I said, this is going to end up being 8.5 inches tall by 5.5 inches wide. Okay, so we have all of our scores. Let's turn it over so we can see that a little better. Let's just go ahead and fold, fold, fold. Now in a lot of this video, or sorry, this envelope, I think I'm going to be speeding through a lot of it, since a lot of it is just duplicate of what we just did with the last one as far as like gluing and all of that. So it's not necessary for you to have to watch me glue everything twice. Okay, now just like before, we can go ahead and open this up and do the cuts. So again, I'm cutting just to this side of the fold. And you know, you can save these little scraps. You can do fun stuff, make clusters and add them to tags and all kinds of fun stuff. And the top we're going to do just like we did on the last one. I'm going to cut this at even a greater angle. So as long as I'm not going past 2.5 inches, I can really make a deep V on this one. So what is that, about 1.5 inches maybe? So I'm just going to cut quite a sharp angle. Okay, I'm just going to fold it up quickly just to see. So that V looks pretty good. I mean, it doesn't have to be centered, but it turned out it is, so that's awesome. And then on our top flap, we can round the corners, or we can make it into a tag shape like we did on the last one. I think I will make it a tag shape. Let me grab one of my other ones to show you. See, like on this one, I did curves on the edges, but I think it's fun to have different shapes. Perfect. On this one, I think I'm going to put a little stenciling or stamping on the inside, so when you open it, it's not just white. Okay, so I have a couple stencils. I think I'll put this one on the bottom and then put the words over the top. So he'll go for maybe vintage photo for this one. And I'm going to use one of the makeup brushes to put it on. I don't have to go all the way down, just enough that when I open it up, it's going to be covered. So about to there. All right, now we'll do the letters. And I think I'm going to use Rusty Hinge Oxide on the letters. Let's see what that looks like. Pretty good. Okay, on this one, I'm going to do the big eyelet. So I'm going to do the big eyelets like this. Now, I said that I don't have a crocodile. I think that's what it's called. But I do have, so for this one, we'll just use the regular hole punch, the one that you would get at any office supply store, just the regular old hole punch to make my holes. And then I have a tool. I don't have a crocodile, but I have a tool to set the eyelets. Aha, little bugger. It was hiding from me. Okay, so, oh, I did want to explain. So I got this tool. I've had it for like a year or two, maybe. It was $10, $10 or $11, and it came with, I think, 800 eyelets. So it had like half were gold, half were silver. So I thought it was a really good deal, and I really like this tool. Until I can get my crocodile, it's been working just great. So we need to do our find our middle so we can make our marks and start punching our hole. So this is 5.5 inches wide, so that middle would be 2 3/4. So I'm just going to make the little marks. Okay, so we have our marks where we need to punch our holes. Like I said, I'm using the bigger punch. And this is the one that I can't go past like 3/4 of an inch. So, and now I need to get my 1 1/4 hole punch and punch out 4 circles from the cereal box and 4 of the 1/2 inch circles for the cereal box. But instead of using the smaller hole in the middle, I'm using the bigger, yeah, the one like I just used to punch the holes in the envelope. I'm going to put that size of hole in the middle of them. And I will be right back. For the eyelets, they're pretty bright gold. So you can actually color them with alcohol ink. It's really simple. So this is one that I already colored with alcohol ink, and you can see the difference. So let me just show you really quick how to do that. Just put it down on like wax paper or parchment paper. Put that there to hold this down. And then, let's see, this is ginger. So it's Ranger alcohol ink and ginger. Just put down like a drop. Sorry, this is a little dirty. I was using it earlier. Just put like a drop. Oop, not 2 drops. Oh well. And then you just put it down just with the big side into the ink. Let me get some tweezers. I don't want to stain my fingers. So yeah, just kind of put it down in the ink. And it dries quite quickly. But it makes a big difference. It gives it a little bit of like antique-ish look to it. See? Big change. And I don't know if you saw the alcohol ink video tutorial that I did on how to make your own a little while ago. The homemade stuff will work too. I just didn't have one that was this particular color, but I did test it out and it does work to dye these too. And so these eyelets, they have backs with them. I grabbed 3 instead of 2. I'm not going to worry about coloring them though, because you don't really see them. Okay, so I have my circles punched out. I ended up going with the 1 inch circle for the back for the reinforcement rather than the 1 1/4 inch. I was just worried if we would have the same problem as the last one where it would be poking over the edge. So I'm going to just glue those down. Before we go any further, I want to ink the edge that we're going to be folding over and gluing, because once it's glued down, we can't ink it. So just want to ink this side. Maybe this bottom flap too. So on the eyelet, we're going to take our eyelet, turn it upside down. And oh, the button, these are the buttons I'm using. I had a stamp that was almost the same size as the button, so I did a little stamp on there too. So we want it, the part that you're going to be seeing, we want to place that upside down on top of the eyelet. Make sure that's poked through. And then 2 washers. Make sure that they're scooted down as far as you can to the top. Okay, and then we're just going to put it through that hole. And then with our tool, I will put a link for this in the description box too. It is really cool that it comes with so many eyelets. All right, so then the little part that looks like a, I don't know, a dome kind of, that's the part that's going to go inside of the eyelet. That's going to be the part that squishes it down. So that little piece will fit right inside of there. Okay, then just make sure it's on there straight, and just crimp it. And there you go. It's really easy. So you see how much taller the shaft is on these larger eyelets. The smaller ones, they're just not very long, and it's just too hard to get this many layers of paper. You know what? I forgot to put the washer on the last one. That's okay. It'll still work. So you put the little washer on after you get it through the paper. And then again, make sure that little point is on this side and squeeze. There we go. I actually want to ink that too. Okay, now we can start to glue. Okay, make sure to put that underneath the seam. Go. You'll see there's just enough room on the side of the button, so we'll be able to secure that flap down flat. All right, now we'll do the bottom flap. Oh, I've already put the lid on. What the? Okay, if you see any oozing out, again, just wipe that off. Love it. On this one, I think I'm going to use the baker's twine. All my stuff in there. So this is quite thin, so it works out really good. I think that black and white will look cute with it. Okay, so we'll just tie this on the top like we did on the last one. And voila. Okay, I found some little things to put on here. So I have some burlap ribbon and a little piece of lace. And I found a scrap that is like almost the same color as those green stripes. So I'm going to do something like this. Okay, so I just took that and sewed around the edges and glued it on 3 sides so that we can use that as a pocket. I just glued these together, and then I dyed this little clip with the alcohol ink. It was bright gold, so that made it look a little rustic. I'm going to stick that there. Okay, that should be dry. And made a cute little tag from some of the leftover paper from the first tag that we did. So that we can just put that right in there. One's finished as well. Now I said that I was going to put up some instructions or measurements, whatever, for this. So that's so cute. The other one. Yeah, those turned out really good. So here is our 8.5 by 5.5 and our 6 by, what was it? 6 by 5. Adorable. And I took a minute and looked up who won the journal. So the 11th person that said that they wanted to enter on that particular video in the comments was Kimmy 9182000. So I left a comment for Kimmy, but if you are Kimmy, look at your messages and send me your, or email me your address. I'll get a hold of you somehow. Anyway, congratulations, Kimmy, and I will send that cute little bee journal out as soon as I get your address. So here is the, here, I'll fold it in half so we can just look at one at once. So this is the first one. This is the 8.5 by 11. So if you want to get a screenshot of that, I'll hold it still for a second, but the green lines are where you score it and fold it, and the orange lines are where you cut. There's that one, and then here is the 12 by 12. And again, the green is where you score it and fold it, and the orange is where you cut. So I hope that you found this helpful. I love the button and string closures, and I do have more things that I'm going to make. I just didn't want this video to be super long, so be looking out for some future videos where I will be doing more of the button and string closures. Please like and subscribe, and please comment. The comments really help me out. So thank you again for staying until the end, and I will see you when I create my next video. Bye!